Hello and welcome to the AI Business Leadership Podcast. I'm Laura Nelson, Head of Product at SolvedBy.Ai, and today I'm delighted to be joined by Phil Lupton, who is a seasoned operational change director and strategic transformation expert. Phil has an impressive track record of driving efficiency, innovation and sustainable growth across diverse industries. He's held senior positions at organisations like Rank Group, Grosvenor Casino, Wagamama and Travelodge, and we've also worked together on some of our AI-driven scheduling projects. So Phil, it's great to have you with us today.
Yeah, thank you. It's great to be here.
So just starting off with your background in operational change and transformation. Could you just start by telling us about your journey and what inspired you to specialise in that area?
So like with a lot of people, my journey started as a generalist before I became a specialist. I started in operations, which has enabled me to gain insight into the grey area that I believe that sits between large transformation programs and then what is needed to successfully implement, sustain, and then drive the relevant ROI. I've led large-scale, strategic, people-centric change in fast-paced businesses and regulated organizations, like you said, in retail, hospitality, and latterly gaming. And I have a holistic approach to change management. And then really positively, I've now teamed up with Paul and Sally to create a business called Trice, which will be launched in the next few weeks. And that's a boutique consultancy. And our experience is over 50 years worth of combined retail experience. And we've tackled real world challenges, solved complex problems, and driven real meaningful change from grassroots to exec senior levels. So 2025 is going to be really exciting for us.
And so you've obviously got experience at companies like Rank and Wagamama. How have those experiences shaped how you approach innovation?
Well, I think that the culture in those businesses have enabled us to be able to get to the root cause of what happens at the front line. So I think innovation, when you talk about innovation, you can see it's the impact that happens to the front line and the teams that are serving customers. So for me, I'm rooted in understanding what is happening at customer level to make significant differences for our teams and for customers. So Wagamama's, Travelodge and Rank, I set up the change culture and the way that we manage change in Rank. All three of those businesses are kind of rooted in that core belief of continuous improvement and understanding what makes a huge difference for our customers and people.
And speaking then of change and operational change, as mentioned, we've worked together on projects around using AI to drive scheduling and solve scheduling problems. So I know you are very passionate about using AI to create efficient and agile organizations and processes. What are your sort of general thoughts on the role of AI when it comes to operational change?
So in my experience, I've seen the volume of work really explode in recent years, leaving people struggling to keep up. So I think AI and the birth of the AI products can really help lift this burden. I see teams handling endless data points, reports, emails, chats, meetings after meetings, non-value add tasks such as building rotors, ordering stock, all the things that we've kind of worked on in the past. But in my view, it's starting to overwhelm people's capacity. And you've probably heard this before on this podcast and in research, but I firmly believe that there is a real need to shift the world where creativity becomes a new productivity. And by balancing AI with employee tasks, organizations can really unlock time for meaningful work, letting employees focus on what truly matters. And if I can just give you a small example of this, me and my partners at Trice, we've been in early discussions with a super successful B2B food and beverage company. Their exponential sales growth, in contrast to a really struggling market, is due to their focus on meaningful, customer-focused work, and their passion and engagement and energy is really palpable. Our work will help streamline and standardize processes, codify their operation, and give them a platform to continue this impressive growth. But most businesses are caught up in doing or talking about the doing rather than meaningful work. And I think this is the shift that our industry needs to make with AI, which will then focus on meaningful work. And I think it will breathe new life into our industry.
And as you say, that focus on meaningful work, but also we've talked in the past about how to kind of support AI adoption by focusing on quick wins that build momentum rather than focusing on overly ambitious projects that maybe would take longer to gain traction or wouldn't be able to get started for being so big. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, exactly that. I think that businesses need to foster a culture where AI and leaders and employees learn together and move away from this notion of replacing jobs. I mean, I use AI as a thinking partner, and businesses need to think like this, handling the heavy lifting so we can focus on creativity, customer experience, and product development. Kind of celebrate small wins, the time served, and for experts to go and do what they do best. So you're right in that it's a real agile, small wins, understanding what's happened to understand scale. I think on the flip side, you need to embrace failure with the same positivity. AI won't get it right all the time, and we know that now, but it does combat blank page syndrome, and it allows kind of for immediate critical thinking so you can start to be more productive. And then for me, lastly, I've read recently, I don't know if you know this, about white belt mentality, and embracing it, I think, is really critical. And this is rooted in martial arts, where the white belt signifies a fresh start for everyone, regardless of background or achievement. And experience and status takes a back seat to learning, adopting, and embracing the journey ahead, which is what is needed for AI. I think this mindset is about staying curious, being open to new experiences, and kind of recognizing that no one's ever too skilled or experienced to learn something new. And to really get something out of this, you need to foster a continuous growth and willingness to evolve.
You mentioned about culture earlier, and obviously those things are not just relevant to AI. Those are, things that would be beneficial to any organization's culture, not just in the technical or the AI sector. And AI is quite often seen as a disruptor. It's sometimes something that people maybe don't necessarily fully understand or see as something that's a bit more threatening rather than supportive. How do you, in your business, how do you help organizations overcome that cultural resistance to AI and make sure that people feel empowered to work alongside it rather than feel replaced by it?
It's an interesting point. I think with any large scale change, the right mix of education, empowerment, involvement is needed. So I think there is a need to demystify AI by kind of providing training, help people understand the literacy, addressing the misconceptions and fears that you've just discussed there. We really do need to encourage experimentation, identify AI champions, use small case pilots, demonstrate benefit to kind of start to reduce the resistance, and then highlight the productivity benefits when they happen. So frame it as a tool to reduce tedious tasks, freeing up employees to do those higher value work, the meaningful work that I discussed earlier. And in the meantime, I think businesses need to start to offer learning opportunities to help new skilled people work alongside AI, which will reduce that job insecurity figures that you spoke about earlier. And then there's two big things for me is involve everybody, engage the workforce in your strategy to build trust and transparency, celebrate small wins, share success stories, and then make that cultural shift really tangible. And then the leadership team need to lead by example, which is a kind of a standard throughout any kind of major change. But it's quick wins, and then really celebrating those that will get traction in this industry.
And obviously a lot of those quick wins will be, as you say, around automation of tasks and kind of removing of really like tedious or kind of very labor intensive tasks for people. Do you have any examples where AI has, as well as automating some of those tasks, has also been able to create more value add work for employees?
Yes, I think before I give you specific examples, I'd like to give you an example of a business that is in a different industry that I think is leading the way in how you approach working with AI. So before I talk about the examples around some of the great things around forecasting stock, customer visit numbers, building fair and equitable rotas, all the things that really do make significant business benefit, there's a business that's just started called We Are Human, which is a creative industry business, which is which is an agency for creative for creative in the movie and in the movie industry, where they've taken 30 of the leading creative experts that manage AI, and they are the humans that are managing the output of that. And I think they've got a real ethical framework that is saying that we understand we need to work with this, and then as experts, we are then managing it. And I think the same thing needs to happen in our industry. So I've seen some fantastic tools that we've worked on around forecasting numbers, building fair and equitable rotas, stock ordering, automation of tasks, etc. I think the real impact will come soon is if we harness the same ethical approach that you think about the We Are Human creative experience in our industry. Once we do that, I think AI will transform every single aspect of our daily work.
Very exciting. So
I think it is, but I think there is a framework that needs to go with it.
Absolutely, both to have it be successful and something that is well received and is able to be sort of smoothly implemented.
It's a partner, isn't it, that makes your life easier.
And as we've said, for a lot of people, AI is, especially leaders, they see AI primarily as a tool for improving productivity. Do you have any practical strategies that you would share with your clients about, or that you've implemented about aligning AI initiatives with organizational goals, and also how you measure that in terms of a return on that investment?
Yeah, I mean, as you've just said, I think aligning the projects to clear business objectives and then measuring those outcomes rigorously is really important when you're starting this journey. So for me, it's focus on high impact cases first. Start with areas where I can drive significant productivity gains, revenue uplift, saving money, predictive maintenance, demand forecast, etc. Then set clear KPIs, define the measurable KPIs, and then link those up to your business strategic goals, such as cost saving, increased throughput, better customer experience, etc. But track these before and after development. That will then start to build buy-in. Measure performance by understanding your baseline first, which is really critical. As we've said before, is pilot and scale at pace. So validate the solutions with small pilots, quantify the benefit, and then scale across the organization at pace. So be really agile. It's really big to implement data governance. I mean, this is something that I've found challenging in the past, but ensure the data is reliable, it's secure, it's in the right place, because you're going to need data to maximize your efficiency. And measure everything by continuing to analyze performance. And then, as I said before, is really hammer home and celebrate success stories to gain productivity and to gain support throughout the business.
And this question, maybe the next question that I have is maybe a little bit more individual focused rather than sort of organizational goals. But we talked in kind of the preparation for this podcast about the differences in terms of the day-to-day work and the workplace and how that will look for leaders in particular as AI continues to evolve and continues to get more embedded in the day-to-day work. Can you tell us a little bit about that and your experience there?
Well, I think I read earlier, I think we discussed this, didn't we, that I think about 10 to 15% of current leaders are using AI daily compared to 50-60% of students, which are kind of our future leaders. And I think today's future leaders are just going to come into businesses expecting AI to be commonplace. And there really needs to be a plan now that shifts from this, as the next generation will just anticipate that basic tasks are automated. So I think the future of our workspaces are going to change significantly. So we need to build a realistic roadmap that drives business benefits today, whilst preparing for what it's going to look like in the future. So the roadmap should focus on the sensible incremental changes that we spoke about earlier, but also shape the business for the next generation. I think head offices over time will become spaces where creative thinking happens rather than task and processing pieces of work.
All that kind of project management type stuff and kind of the admin overhead of lots of roles and tasks that should be more creative driven or should be more strategic driven kind of has potential to take away a lot of that and just have that be purely a creative, strategic space.
It does, but then don't forget that those people that have been doing that really understand that part of the business as well. So retraining those for them to become experts to drive your business while AI then does the heavy lifting, I think is where people will truly end up maximizing the benefit of this product.
And in terms of being ready for that transformation, you mentioned about kind of a roadmap and a plan to get there and about training. Are those the kind of key things that you would recommend in terms of leaders preparing for that future?
But it's really interesting. I saw a great visual example of how to talk about this at a digital festival earlier in the year. So I'll see if this works on a podcast. So we'll give it a go. So imagine a Jenga game. So do you know Jenga game, the Jenga tower? I think that as AI evolves, you'll see pieces of that Jenga tower being taken away as old structures change, adapt, and transform. So work that happened before might be taken away by AI because it will produce it. But businesses now need to they'll have another bit of the tower here, which then starts to change and understands the need to look at training the current teams and new ways of working that will shift them from doing tasks to being more creative. So I think the businesses will either have a choice where they want to create efficiencies from using AI or whether they want to then use this new team that they've got and this extra headspace to then drive creativity, productivity, new products, and then drive your business forward. So I think AI will start to shift the traditional structure of organizations, especially over the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, interesting. I think the visual works. I see it.
Did you see it? I know it's difficult. It worked really well when someone did it in front of me. So I thought I've used it. It's a really great way of saying that definitely things will change, but there will be new rules that come that will drive business productivity.
Mm-hmm. And so coming back a little bit more to your specific sectors that you have more experience in, what would you say are some of the unique challenges or opportunities that you would see in applying AI to sectors like hospitality and retail, maybe compared to other industries?
Well, this is where I think it's quite exciting for hospitality and retail, actually. Away from challenges, I think there's more opportunity. So my experience over the years is that you can have an amazing hotel, you can have a wonderful product, you can have a great restaurant, you can have wonderful brands, but really in hospitality and retail, it's the people that make a difference. It's the people that create those amazing experiences that are memorable. And by shifting away from getting people to do tasks and being able to push the experts closer to the customer, I think these industries are going to absolutely shine from this. I think if hospitality and retail really leverages AI, they could significantly improve customer experience. That in itself could be a real game changer for those industries.
And are there any specific use cases or success stories that you've seen that have stood out to you, maybe either from a professional perspective or even as a customer yourself?
I think professionally, the work we did together still stands out in my mind. It was years ahead of its time, and I haven't found an AI rostering tool and forecasting tool that performs better than the one that was developed together and that you guys have got now. But interestingly, the user cases for me is the lessons I've learned on that journey has really shaped much of my thinking and research and approach that I've taken in for today's conversation. So I've seen lots and lots of great examples of how AI works well in the background. I think, but I think it's partnering with the people that is where it will make the biggest difference.
Absolutely. Well, that leads me quite nicely onto my last question. So your role as a consultant obviously involves helping organizations to make rapid and impactful changes. What advice would you give to leaders who want to adopt AI but feel overwhelmed by either the perceived complexity or the scale of implementation?
Well, it's a difficult one, this, isn't it? So it is evolving rapidly, and businesses need to adapt a small incremental change mentality rather than the traditional large-scale transformation program. So if you think about by the time an extensive governance and project plans are set up, the technology has moved on so quickly that you can't really put a flag in the stand in your sand. So Starting small and adjusting along the way will provide real significant competitive advantage in this space. And I've spoke about these 4 key points earlier today, but for me, it's involve everybody, foster a culture where AI leaders and employees learn together, move away from the fear of replacing jobs and really celebrate quick wins. Start small and let adoption build naturally. Embrace failure. Accept that it won't get it right first time, but know that it will combat that blank page syndrome and it allow for immediate critical thinking, which will take a lot of grunt work away from people. Accepting failures with positivity will really enhance the learning process. For me, stay curious and open to new experiences. Have that white belt mentality. No one's too skilled or experienced to learn something new, and this mindset really will encourage growth and willingness to evolve. And then the last thing for me is just measure everything. By making small incremental changes and focusing on these areas, businesses can really start benefiting from AI now and then be better prepared for the future.
Fabulous. All right. Well, and all great advice just from a general business perspective as well. This is what I often find on this podcast is that a lot of the advice that is applicable to AI is just great business advice as well.
It is. But I think AI is really, I think it's there's an exciting shift change in time now where I think that, embracing it as a partnership product will make a significant change in how we work in the future.
Very exciting.
It's great.
Fabulous. All right. Well, thanks so much, Phil, for coming on and sharing your thoughts and your experience with us. It's been a really interesting discussion and been great to chat with you.
Thank you. Let's do it again soon.
That's it for now for this episode of the AI Business Leadership Podcast. Be sure to follow us on social media for more insights from industry leaders like Phil, and thanks for tuning in.